This is a 1910 Hebdomas pocket watch. It's called an 8-day pocket watch because it actually will run for 8 days. And it won a lot of competitions back then for the amount of time it could actually run with one wind. It's got some, not sure what these are, rubies or sapphires or something, but it's got some nice jewels in here. And the face on it is immaculate. There's no hairline cracks or anything on the face. And it's got a visible bridge here with the balance is in there, and it's just gorgeous. The balance doesn't seem to be moving freely, so it might be gummed up, or there might be other issues with it. I've found a crystal that actually fits the watch perfectly, and with very little movement or shake on it, end shake or shake on it. So I bought this crystal from a supplier, and I think I will end up gluing this crystal in. This will be the crystal for the watch, so this is what it'll end up looking like. It might be a little shiny or whatever. The back's got some wear on it. I'll just leave the crystal on to protect it. The back has got wear on it, so I think it was silver coated or something, and it's still the back. I'll try to clean the back up a bit, but probably nothing much I can do about that, but that's fine. Anyway, inside the watch, if you look at this, it says 8 days on it. Get this upside down here, so I'll just put it like this. So there it says 8 days, and I think those little coins on the left and the right of center are actually the awards it won for the competitions, for duration probably. So I have to do a little bit more research on this. But what I've found out from do a little bit of reading on this is that this here is the barrel for the watch. So when you actually wind the watch, I'll see if I can wind this here. You'll see the barrel actually turns, the full barrel turns. So inside here is the spring, the complete spring for the barrel. And what I'm told is that if I disassemble the hood on this, the barrel itself, then the rest of it looks a lot like a pocket watch. So I don't have any instructions on how to disassemble this watch, so I'm going to allow you to watch me as I stumble through this. I'm going to try to not do things that other people will criticize, like too many fingerprints and all that stuff. So because it's an old vintage watch, I'm not going to wear my finger cocks for this, and I own it, so I'm not too concerned. When I reassemble it, though, I'll make sure that it's well oiled and there's no leftover prints, so I might put them on after I do the cleaning. So anyway, I'm going to attempt to fix this or find out what's wrong with it anyway, and clean it and see if I can get this thing running again. So it's the first video I've ever seen on these watches, or the first video that's out there. I'm doing this to help others that might have a similar watch or might want to buy one and try to service it. So as I stumble through, we'll see what happens. So these long fingernails are for guitar playing, by the way, because I do electric blues, plus I do some classical and finger picking and stuff like that. So that's my excuse anyway. I'm sticking with it. As well, this watch, so it came with, I forget what these things are called, but anyway, it came with these metals on the end. This looks kind of Swissish. It may have been sold with like this, and also there's a rowing metal on there too, so single skull rowing, so it might be have been given to somebody as a first prize in a rowing competition or something like that. So not sure, but this is kind of a neat addition to it. And this is as old as the watch, I'm sure, so I'm very carefully going to disassemble this watch, fix it up, and then put this aside here for now and get it running again. So the general value of these watches are anywhere from $250 to $800 I've seen. So, and most of the ones I've seen that are that price aren't running, and so this baby, once it gets running, could be worth quite a lot. I probably won't sell it because it's such a neat watch, and I have never seen them with jewels like this. So they're small jewels, but nevertheless they are jewels, and they're probably really real jewels. So they're probably rubies or something, but they're authentic. So anyway, so let me continue here and see what I can. First thing I'm going to do is take the top off of this. So I don't know whether this pops off or whether it's screwed off, but it looks like there's a little opening right here, so hopefully it's not a screw off one. And so it did, there was a little groove here, did work, and it popped off. So this is, I guess, the bezel. I'll put everything aside as I disassemble it, but anyway, I think I'm lucky. So that's successfully came off, which is really good. And then I will, next thing I'm going to do here is, you have to bear with me because I'm not going to just cut every part of this, so I might cut this later. But anyway, I need to take the hand off this, but I'm looking into it and seeing how this thing is mounted, and it does look like there's mounting screws on here on the inside, but again, I'm not sure how this is put together. And I'm also going to take a few photos as I disassemble the watch, so piece by piece. It looks like there's a bit of guck around the face of the watch here that's been there probably for 100 years or more. So just wipe a little bit of this off carefully. As I said before, the watch is in pretty good condition. Also, the jewels or rubies or whatever these things are underneath, they look like they're underneath a coating or something that they've put on this. So it looks like they've taken the dial, and there's some ceramic or see-through coating that's on top of this dial, which is kind of neat. So what I'll do first is I'll remove this hand here, and just to get it out of the way so I don't screw that up, and make sure I protect the dial while I remove this hand. So just put this piece of paper under the dial like so. So this is the same piece of paper I use for every one of them, so it's getting pretty grungy. And then I just got to get some tools out here. So I got these nice little dial removers here I use. I think this watch is a full plate watch too, which means that when I take this apart, it's going to be interesting to put back together. So take the hand off like this, and then I'll pick the hand up very carefully here and then put it aside. So there, it's ready. It's cleaned. Just kidding. Let's just let people turn the video off because they think, oh, that's it. That's all I got to do. Just take the hand off and you're good. I've seen a lot of these, like I said before, that they pictures of these watches that are in where the face on it's got hairline cracks and everything else. This one here is mint. I see no hairline cracks or anything. It's got two words here, or two letters here, as you can see on the bottom, and it's F and S, and then there's R and A, which might be fast and slow, and then the equivalent Swiss word for fast and slow, which I don't know. Even though I'm half Swiss, I don't know the words for that. And actually, if you look at this carefully, I shouldn't point with this, there's a regulator here, regulator arm here, and this here regulator is pointing towards the fast. So when you adjust it, you swing it either fast or slow. So you can actually adjust the watch just by taking the crystal off and adjusting it very carefully, which is pretty cool. I look at the spring on it, the hairspring on it, and it looks a bit bunched up, which might mean it's magnetic or some other problem. So I'm just hoping that there isn't serious problems with the balance in the hairspring, because I'd love to get this thing working again. So that's pretty much apart now. So I'm not sure whether some of the balance, some of the watch holders I have will hold this while I do some work on the other side here. So we'll see here whether that works. Yeah, actually that's not too bad. So I don't want to damage the this thing at all. I'm paranoid as heck doing work on it, so I'm paranoid enough about it as not to damage it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I think I'll somehow release pressure on the barrel here. I'm not sure how, whether that, whether I'm doing the right thing or not, or whether there is pressure on it or not. But I see a little foot that's here that slides into the barrel. It seems to be sliding into the barrel to keep it in the same place. But I think it winds. It's winding, but I don't actually think it's like fully wound up or jammed up. So, and because it doesn't seem to be going in the other direction once I hit this. If I physically grab the barrel and then try to turn it, maybe, because it goes one way, so I'm not sure if it'll go the other way on its own. It seems to turn a bit, but no, I don't know. Now before I rolled it up like this, and it got to a point where it seems to want to slip. So I'm just going to wind it up to that point again. And then right here it seems to have some, the spring seems to have some tension. And I'm just going to very carefully wind it up, and there. Now you just heard that. And that's the spring releasing. So there's either a problem with the hook on this side, or there's a problem with the arbor on this side, and one or the other. And we'll have to just investigate that. So I had to figure out how to undo this, which is a very strange configuration for this watch here. And so I thought, okay, I'll take two pieces of steel and I'll grave them down to the right diameter to fit in the holes, and I'll take a piece of brass that I have and I'll fit that in. So I ended up making this tool. So I had a 1/16 inch drill bit, so I had to actually grave these down. So if you look at these, see if I can focus that, I'm not sure. They're a lot smaller than, come on. Yeah, there we go. So there they are there. I graved them down to the right diameter. And then I also, when I made the holes, I had to widen it just a bit. So I put them in a vise, and I just put the pointy end of a file in between the gap here, and I just pounded it until they moved. It was just ever so slightly, right? And these are friction fit, so the metal that I use, the steel that I use, was slightly bigger than the 1/16 inch hole I drilled. So that way I could friction fit them, and they are friction fit. They're really tight in there. So, and then when I went to try this out, see if you can see this here. So there it is there. And I could drop my lens here. And if you look at this, and I put this in here, they fit perfectly in the hole like that. And then you turn it, and the actual thing is turning, as you can see. So I'll be able to take this off now because I made a tool. So, which you should always be able to do. And I use my lathe, I use my drill press, and some other stuff, and so this is a pretty cool tool. So now, using my tool, I have to turn this clockwise, believe it or not, to undo it. So put the tool into the top and then turn it clockwise like so, and there we go. It just kind of popped off there. So there it is there, and then I should be able to take out the spring here. So somebody said earlier I should have let down the mainspring first. I'm not sure if there's any tension on that at all, so I'll try to take down the mainspring. So moving this small tab out of the way, I was able to take down the mainspring. It just kind of, you just kind of hold it and it swings around. And then maybe I can use this tool again. I'm not sure. No, these are too wide. And now I have to take out the mainspring. So I'm not sure how to do this without screwing up the arbor. So see if I can figure this one out here. I'm going to have a peek at it on the inside. The spring still looks intact, but the arbor looks like it's attached. So there might be a technique, so I'm not going to videotape this because I'm just going to be fooling with it. So I think the next thing I actually have to do is take out the bridge here, so I very carefully unscrew this bridge and see if this releases this. I wish there was some kind of a disassembly instruction on this watch, but alas, there is not. Don't want this to slip. Oh, look at that. Screwdriver jammed right in there. Obviously it was the wrong blade to use. So I think that it looks as though this is kind of keeping everything in place. So I very carefully remove this. I'm actually not sure how to hang it, so I'll get my, we need two of these. Take a quick picture first with my cell phone. That way I know what I'm up to. This is like golf. It's like you gotta talk really quietly and like whisper, and maybe somebody will not interfere with your putt. I do golf, by the way, but I'm not necessarily good at it. I just do it. So there we go. So that's out now. So it's a high probability of this thing just dropping through when I open up the back. So I got to be very careful here. I don't want there to be a problem. So flip this over like so, and then see if I get any movement at all here. And this thing is still in here solid, so maybe these screws have to be undone completely or something. So I will continue to fart with it until I figure it out. Alright, so for those of you who are interested, there's a really small screw right here, and you've got to loosen that screw off, and that allows you to take the stem out. So that's how that's removed. Alright, so after that, I just take the back, your hands in the barrel in the back, and then just push up. And there's two screws here that need to be kind of flat against the case. As you can see, they're flat on one side and round on the other, so you got to sort of align those so they're flat against the case. And then the watch comes right out like that. And there's that screw that was, or that little screw that was kind of holding the stem in place as I removed the stem. So that, my friends, is how you take this movement apart. So I'm going to, I still don't know how to remove the spring, but in the interest of not losing the these screws. I think I'll just screw them back in for a second there until I figure that out. I don't want to lose them. So, and I'm not sure how exactly the spring is in there with the arbor, but it's a pain in the butt if you can't do it. But maybe there's a way of slipping it out. So maybe I took this off a bit too soon. I'm not sure. So there it is there. I think I'm going to actually screw this back in place just temporarily. So it screws counterclockwise. So just use my finger to put this back in place. There we go. And then I can remove the face very carefully. So there's a couple of screws here that I need to undo to remove the face. Yeah, I'm on there. And then again, don't want to lose the screws here. So this area of my desk will stay exactly like this until this watch is done, fixed, reassembled, in good working order. There we go. So that is the face, and it is in mint condition. That is absolutely mint condition. This looks like it has actually never been off. So I'm really impressed. That's a beautiful piece. And there's the movement. So I've got there's some crazy stuff here, I think, in this movement. I'm going to tighten these screws up just a bit so again I don't lose them. And because that would be a crying shame. I'm going to take a quick picture of this again so I don't forget what this looks like if I lose my. Man, this watch is dirty. So I think I have to strip the top off first, and then I can pop the arbor off in the middle. I think that's how this works. So I'm going to be very careful here and just start disassembling it. There's a leaf to keep the face away. This also looks pretty greasy as well. And then take this off, covering the cannon pinion. There is no, well, there is a cannon pinion in this thing. Thought maybe because of the way it was configured there wouldn't be a cannon pinion. But there is. I'm hoping I can just pull that straight off. Because I don't have a cannon pinion removal tool unless you want to count my my watch. Yeah, there we go. Came straight out, no problem. I'm not going to take this screw off here. I don't know what the heck this is actually. I think this is just, it's for the winding mechanism actually. So one thing I really have to remember is to take a picture of the works there, the winding mechanisms. Make sure that I have a good photo of that so I don't forget how to put it back together again, because that would really peeve me off. So I actually I watched a lot of videos by Bun Special, and he's kind of a hilarious guy because he says exactly what he's thinking, and which is the way you want to be in life, I guess. Alright, that is not moving at all, and I didn't bend the screwdriver, so I think the screwdriver just loosened on the end, that's all. Let me just see if that needs to be tightened a bit. And I'll use the other one actually, because I think it's a little bit bigger. Fits in a little better. Oh, these screws have been in for 100 years. Like I said before, I don't think anybody has ever taken this thing apart. The Hebdomas switch watch movement. One thing I don't want to do is slip at all, because this thing is mint. That would piss me off. Although I own it. So whenever you own something, you're less critical about it. You know, I could ruin it if I own it, but I wouldn't want to tell anybody. And this video would not go online if I've screwed it up. So I want to show people how I can screw this up. Because that would be not very bright. So here we go. Let's see if I can lift the plate out. Or up rather. There's a peg there, and that's for fitting the watch in. This is for that. I think this should just come right up. So I'm gonna get a smaller screwdriver to work it up. Sometimes there's grooves that you can use. No, this is not too bad. And there we go. And there it is there. That's the inside of that plate. Let me just put that plate down next to all the parts. And then I'm going to take a big, I almost said a bad word there, big photo of this. And just in case I got issues, how to reassemble it. So there we go. And I'm going to have to examine the jewels and everything. Actually, this doesn't have jewels in the front. It just, I don't think it has that many jewels in it. So, which I think is, for me, really good. Because I would hate for the jewels to have been screwed up. There we go. And then this one here probably just slips out sideways. Yeah. This is second hand. I think I have to take this off to get this one out. No, I don't. I was wrong. That comes out. And then, yeah, it looks like the arbor just pops off the back somehow. I'm not sure. So look at that really carefully here. Because like I said, I don't want to screw it up. So this is the bridge for the escapement. So I'll put that over there, and then I just have to move this out of the way very carefully. And one thing you want to do is just try to lift this straight up, because it can bend the arbor for the escapement here, and you don't want that to happen. There we go. And there, I've got the screw with it too, so I've got the mama and papa together. And then I got these little buggers here. It's funny, I think I got a small piece of my mat on the watch as well. Now, as I mumble away here. So, yeah, I see no indication of previous work on this watch, so it's very possible I'm the first, hopefully the last person that ever does anything with this. Now, if I was really smart, I'd get rid of this piece of foam or whatever this is. And I can zoom up. I could zoom in just a bit here. There we go. And I'll take the pallet fork out. The bridge for the pallet fork is there. And then I'll very carefully remove the pallet fork. Like that, like so. And I don't think I've got anything else to remove here, but I might as well take the case screws out, because I think I know where they go now, so it's no big deal. That one just kind of came out on its own. And I'll take this case screw out here. Case is getting screwed. So that's, these are the two case screws. I'll move them over to the side here. And and then I could take, I've got a picture of this already, so I think I can zoom in on this, and I think I'll take a close-up photo of that, just so again, the keyless is sometimes tricky to get back together. I'm not sure if this will be tricky or not. But there we go. And I can remove this now. Yeah, there's the biting gears on the inside, and I've got the biting on that side. And that's it for that. And I still don't know how to take out the spring, so what I'm going to do is, again, turn this off. There's the movement stripped down. So I'm going to turn this off right now and figure out how to get that mainspring out. Hey, sometimes farting around pays off. So I looked it up, and I basically turned it the opposite way, and this just slips right out. So this just comes right out, and there's kind of an arbor there that's part of the movement, and you don't want to play with that. So this just comes right out, no issue. So I've got to check out the mainspring because it's slipping, which means it's probably broken somewhere. But it's the world's longest mainspring, so I'm not sure how this is reattached. I can actually think I see where it's broken. So it looks like it's, if you look at it really closely here, get the toothpick out. So it attaches right here where this little notch is, and then it goes around here, as you can see, and then it goes all the way around here, and I'm looking at it going around, and then it stops there, and it's broken right there. You can see the break on it, and then it continues, and there's the other side of the break. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the mainspring, then I'm going to put a notch in it right here, right there, and I'm going to make the notch exactly the same as this notch, which means I'm going to have to heat it up and bend it and heat it and bend it and heat it and bend it. And then I'm going to put the mainspring back in its barrel. And just in case I forget, looking down on the barrel, this thing is going clockwise, looking down the barrel. And I'll have to put this in by hand anyway, so there's no other way of doing it. So that's it there. Anyway, I'm going to see if I can take the mainspring out. Now this movement also it's got the jewel here. It doesn't have many jewels in it, so one jewel is right here. Move that over a bit. So we got one jewel, it's the cap for the jewel there, and then we have to get the keyless mechanism here, and some more keyless mechanism here. And I might be a bad boy and wash this thing without taking apart the keyless mechanism in lighter fluid, and then grease it after, because the lighter fluid will evaporate completely, and I don't know if I want to figure out how to reassemble this keyless mechanism. So I know I'll get lots of people writing me saying, oh, well, you just don't take it apart. But I want this thing to work first. So, and I'm very interested in it working rather than screwing it up. So it doesn't look like there's anything else on this side I have to worry about. And this side is pretty much cleaned out. So there's nothing here either. So I think what I'll do is clean this first before I dive into the mainspring, or maybe I'll do the mainspring. But I'm going to have to do some, again, there's the tool I made to take the top off that mainspring barrel. I'm going to take a photo of this here and the brake, and then I'll figure out how to do that and temper that, or anneal the steel to bend it back into place and put it into that notch again. So anyway, I will be. And now for the cleaning. What a tie! Okay, now I've got to remove the spring. I've actually got these parts sitting here in the lighter fluid, just getting the grime off them first. So I'll let them sit there for a little while. There's no glue or resin or anything like that that's going to come off of that. So this thing here is actually, when I wind it back in, I've got to place it in counterclockwise, not clockwise. So I'm going to take off these finger cocks here so I can get a grip on the spring, because they'll get all caught up here. So let me just grab this spring here. This is one big spring, so I'm not sure what this is going to look like when I take it out, but it's been in place for 100 years. So what you do is you walk it out like this, and when I put the spring back, I don't think I'm going to try to stretch it out and tension it, because if I do that, there's a chance that I could ruin the spring. So this is walking the spring out of the barrel. I'm going to move my hands over so you guys can see this. Very carefully and slowly. And there's a hook, so the spring is out, and as you can see, it's broken on this end. It's broken right there, so that's the end I'm going to reattach. And that's a close-up of the where it's attached. So see if I can see that. See that there? So right here. So it goes around, and there's a little bit of a bend that goes into it goes inside. And it looks like, as well, this is strange. Because actually this looks like it has a notch in it. So if you can see that notch there, so it's very possible that this spring here was supposed to have a notch on it that connects to this notch. So I'm going to have a look at that and see, because this also has a notch on it. So this kind of doesn't make any sense. So I don't think those two notches stuck together. But you know what? Maybe they did. I don't know. Now I'm looking at the teeth on the barrel, and they all look really good. So I'm going to end up throwing this barrel into the fluid here too in a few seconds to clean it. So that's the barrel, and we're going to clean that up and then see if I can fix the spring problem. So there's the full spring of this pocket watch. This is why it's an 8-day watch, because this thing just goes around and around forever. But I still haven't figured out how to attach the end part on the side of the barrel, so that'll be in a few seconds. This is how much dirt was on the movement. This was a lot of dirt. So 100 years of dirt and grime in there, so I've cleaned it all out. I still have to let this stuff dry off. Here are the parts on the drying paper here, the watchmaker's paper. So I'm going to let all this stuff dry off nicely. Then I'm going to take the plates that I cleaned earlier, and I'm going to peg out the holes, and I'm also going to clean the cap jewel that was on the bottom of this plate. So I take this cap off here and peg out the hole and clean out this jewel. So that's for the balance. So that should clean it up nicely, and then we'll go from there. This is just a quick sample of how you would peg out the holes. So you get a piece of pegwood and you sharpen it up, and you start at the larger holes, which would be over here, and you work your way down. So, and by doing that, your pegwood doesn't, if you start at a smaller hole, it doesn't work because you're using a smaller diameter of the pegwood. So this way you're using the larger diameter of the pegwood, and you're cleaning the holes out this way, and then you do it on one side, and then you do it on the other side as well. And that gets all the grime out of the holes. And this is kind of important because this movement here doesn't have jewels in it. I'm not sure whether one of these Hebdoma movements actually had jewels, other than the jewel for the balance. So that's the one jewel I know of. The other jewels I'm not sure of, so I'm going to peg out both sides here and make sure it's nice and clean, and I'm going to use my Rodico to pick up any leftover flakes from the pegwood. That just gives you the final nice clean holes for the arbors for the various wheels. So ensures that you've got a really clean movement there. So some of these holes are pretty small, almost impossible to clean. So there we go. That's the bottom, and then do the top as well. And sometimes you have in the holes you'll have a piece of brass, like this one here has got a brass insert in the holes. You just have to make sure you don't press too hard, because you could push the brass insert out, and then you've got all kinds of fun. Then you got to make another brass insert and press it in. So, and that is a whole other job. It's possible and it's doable, but it's a pain in the butt. So if you're very careful, you can clean these out without ruining the brass inserts at all. And these brass inserts, it's brass on steel. So the brass inserts are excellent at providing the right metal on metal, so that you get the movement. There's no natural lubrication with brass, but you do get the movement. And the steel is a harder metal, so it'll wear the brass a bit, but not a lot. So there we go. So those are pegged out as well. And then I take each one of these, and I get a piece of wood like this. Let me show you what I got here. Like this, and this is soft. This is Watchmaker's, I can't remember what it's called, but it's wood. It's very soft wood. It's like balsa almost. And you make sure you poke each one of the arbors, and make sure the wheels are also clean with the gears. So you roll them on the wood, and anything that's any leftover debris from the cleaning will catch onto that and pick it up. So it's a little bit tedious job, but it's worthwhile in the long run. And after I do this, I've got to actually use the Rodico and pick up any leftover flakes that I have from this, because this will also leave flakes. So, and I don't want any leftover flakes. So I'm going to clean these off, and I'm going to clean off the mainspring barrel gear as well. I've taken the cap jewel off here, and it is nicely cleaned. And just make sure I rub it a little tiny bit with this pegwood on the top, just to make sure it's totally clean and degreased. There we go. Let me check the reflection. You can just check the reflection against the light, and you can see whether there's any grime left on it or not. And it should be completely cleaned off. So this looks pretty good now. And so I just need to put a spot, a small spot of oil, 9010 or whatever I'm using. I think it's 9010 on the actual cap of the cap jewel. Get that on here. There we go. You don't want to over oil anything here. So that's on the cap now. So what I do is I turn that around, and I'm going to drop it in and align it with the screw for it. Let's not go here. The oil's still on there, no problem. And there we go. So that's aligned. And I just move that and shift that over just a bit. And there's the mystery screw right here. And drop that in place like that. And then I have to just simply screw it back in place. So that is how you oil the cap jewel. And this is the cap for the lower part of the balance. There we go. I tighten that up just a bit. I'll zoom in a bit so you can see it. Is that going to focus for me? Probably not. I'm going to zoom out and then zoom in and let it focus. There we go. Come on. Focus for me. There we go. So you can see the cap there. It's right here. That's the cap. I oiled it, so you just put a little smidgen of oil on the top of that, and then you turn it on. So I peg-wooded the cap as well. So I'm going to start assembling the watch again. So when I assemble a watch, I like to start with the palate fork, because it's the hardest one to get back in there once you've taken it all apart. And I just noticed there's still a little bit of grime left on the palate fork, so I'm going to use some Rodico to take that off very carefully. And then not sure where that grime comes from, but there was still just a little bit left on there. So I just have to be very careful when I do this. I don't bend anything. There we go. And the palate fork looks like it's in good condition. There we go. And I got to put that in place, and it's pretty easy to figure out where it needs to go, because the arm for it goes in between the other part. So I have to assume that the balance is here, which means the palate fork needs to go right here. So just lay it down like that, and should get closer with this video. There, that's a bit closer. Now, problem with videotaping is that while you're videotaping, you basically have a rough time actually doing the work because the video is on and you're paying attention to that part of it. So anyway, so there's the palette in place like that, and then the bridge has to go on top. So it goes like this, and then to see where the posts are for that bridge. Looks like they're on this side, which is kind of odd, but that's the way it works. So there's two posts on either side. They go on like this, and then the palette fork fits in the hole. I think I'm going to cut the video and just do this so you don't have to watch me do it. It's a tricky job. There we go. I believe it's in place. Just have to move the palette back and forth a bit and see if it moves. Seems to move nicely. And then I just need to put the screws in place here. One here. Try to center the video here, but also using too small a screwdriver, but that's the other problem I have. I need to use a bigger screwdriver because this is just grabbing the edge here, which is kind of silly. And so you put a screw in and just make sure this thing is still loose. You're not squeezing it. That way you're not going to damage the pivots on the palette fork. So this one goes in here. This one goes in. Oh, I dropped it. Now if you drop a screw, sometimes you just pick it up with Rodico and you're good to go. My God, what am I doing? I think it's because I'm being videotaped. Yeah, and of course it's stuck now between the palette and the case. Alright, I'm going to cancel this and then keep. Alright, I'm back in business. I used a piece of Rodico and just grabbed the darn thing. So, need a bigger blade for my screwdriver here. I think the lighting is off too because I'm making the lighting good for videotaping, but it's shitty for actually putting the watch back together again. Let me check and make sure that this palette fork is moving back and forth nicely. And as you can see, it is. So I can tighten this down a bit. I can actually see a hair on the end of my screwdriver. And because I have pretty much no hair, it's not mine. It might be my wife's. There we go. That's in there nicely, and you don't have to just ream the screws down. So you put them in just tight enough, and that's fine. And now we want to put the escapement in, and I'm going to have a quick peek at my photograph to see which order things go in. Alright, I got the palette fork in nicely, and then I just put the bridge in, or the escapement in. And I'm just going to drop the screw in here. I think this is the right screw, I think. So that's a bit of success. And then I always tend to hold this down because as you're screwing it in, sometimes it it wants to jump up again, which kind of screws it up a bit. So tighten it up just a bit and then check for movement. And it looks like there's nice movement there. Nice end shake, as they call it. So I'm going to tighten it down a bit more and then check for end shake again. And we got end shake, ladies and gentlemen. And I think this is, yeah, we're good. Just had to make sure it's on both sides before I screw it tight. Sometimes I'll look on the other side to make sure that it's going through the hole, and it looks like it is. It's right there, and it is, so that's it. So it's going through the hole. It's good. It's in a good position. Can't see a damn thing with this light on this way. Not sure how it is for videotaping, but it's a pain in the butt for putting a watch back together again. Should get another flashlight over here. I got another light over here that I could use to shine from the other direction, like this. That way I can see. There we go. I can see. I'm alive. I'm alive. And, you know, just so I don't forget this later on, I'm going to put the oil in right now. Right there. And sometimes people say you don't bother oiling the palette fork going back and forth, but I'm not sure because it's so small whether I should oil it or not. It looks like there's the ability to oil it, but I'm going to put a drop in there. I'm going to turn this light off because it's going to blind me. So that's oiled, and I'm going to oil I'm going to put a drop of oil in where the balance goes as well. Oh no, I did that already because I took the cap jewel off and I've oiled the other side, so I don't want to fart with that. I just need to drop these wheels in now. So it's time to drop the wheels in. So let me get them and put them in place. Alright, I've dropped all the wheels in place here, so I think they're all good. Now I think before I put the plate on, I've got to put the appropriate, yeah, the keyless works in there next. Yeah, that's what I got to do. So, and they go kind of like this. They go like this. And the grabby part goes on the outside. And like this. And there we go. So that's the keyless works. And I'm going to have to oil these. I can probably get them from the other side though, so I don't need to oil them on this side. And now I've got to put the full plate back. So this full plate will go all the way over on top of this. So I'm not going to videotape that because it usually takes a bit of work to get the plate back on. Finicky stuff and poking with little sharp things and all kinds of fun. I usually use this here little tool, and it helps me poke the wheels and stuff until they all drop in place. So here we go. This is the part I actually don't like. So before I do this, I just have to make sure I haven't left anything out, any additional screws or anything else. So no, I think I'm good. I think I am good. All right, here we go for the plate. just a hint here. So when you put the full plate on, what I typically do is I put the plate on and I make sure it's secured, and I put some screws in on one side. So I've got this in place here, and this sort of ensures it doesn't pop up on one side while you're trying to get it secured on the other side. So I put the screws in like this. So I'm trying to put screws in here and I'm having no success. So I put a screw in on one side. I can see the plate is through here. It's through here. And so I'm securing this, and when I screw this down, I do not want to screw it in tight. I want it to be really loose, and that way I can make sure that I'm not squishing the pivots on the other side. So there it is there, and that's loose, but it's tight enough to keep that side of the plate on. Then I can use this tool here to just move the wheels around a bit until they drop in place. So I'm going to do that right now, and I'll be back in a few minutes. This is a tougher thing. This is the toughest part here, so it's not fun at all. And these two wheels are going to be fun, I can tell. So anyway, no need to watch me do this. So after farting around with this for a few minutes, I finally got the pivots to stick through the hole. I'm trying to talk very quietly because I think the camera's right next to my face. And again, like I said before, the lighting's piss poor for me to be using my screwdriver, but I wanted to videotape this so you folks could see how this thing is put back together again. So we're just going to check. I can see the pivots through this side. I just want to make sure I can see them through the other side. And they're all there. They all seem to be there. And so I'm going to screw this down tighter. Like that, and like that. And then I got one more screw to put in over here. Right here. And so see where my camera is here. I'm going to move over a bit because I'm way out of scene here. So I'm going to screw this one in here like that. And I want to turn this around and have a look at the keyless mechanism. Well, that's farted up. That does not look good at all. I might have to take this apart again. Not good at all. This thing fell out of the slot, so I really don't want to have to take this apart again. So the other alternative is for me to just disassemble this nonsense here and put this back in, because it looks like both of them fell out. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to disassemble this and then put it. So I disassembled it and I cleaned it up a bit and I put it all back in place, and you can see it's back in the slot, and so it should work again no problem. And what I need to do now is put a little bit of oil on there. So I've got a special type of thicker kind of oil that's used for this sort of thing. So I'm going to put a little bit on the inside here, and that'll spread around when it turns. I'm going to put a little bit on the gears here, and that'll spread around when it turns. And then I'm going to put a little bit on the gears here, and that'll spread around when it turns. And I'm going to put a little bit on the gears here. I guess I'm going to say it'll spread around when it turns. So that's all good. And I'm going to put some here for some friction. This will help with this part here and where the spring is here, because there's a little tiny bit of a spring there that holds it in place. So that's how that works. Now, and if I take I'm not sure if this will work, but if I take my big ass, I'm going to jam this through here really quickly. So this is the world's largest stem, killer stem here from wherever. But look at the size of this thing. Holy crap. This is a big stem I have here. It's a monster stem. And I'm just going to clean it up a bit. I've oiled the other side, so I didn't bother cleaning this one. I'm lazy or just forgetful, but it didn't make much difference. So when I put this in here, I really have to raise that screw up just a tad, or else the stem won't go in. So if I raise it up like that, then I stick this in here like this. See if I can do this here. Is that going to work? Not sure. Yeah, I think that's in there. And I think what you do, because you want this to move this way. So this is one mode. And then when I basically screw this thing down, again I got pissy lighting problems here. So this turns it this way, and then when I screw it down like that, it turns it this way, and that should be turning the small wheel up here. So when I put the gears back in, so there we go, and that's turning nice and smoothly. And then when I do this way, it turns this wheel here. It turns nice and smoothly as well. So I gotta remember where the camera is. I keep going off to the side here, so I'm just gonna move it like that. So that turns it there. So that works really well. So what I have to do is I'm gonna pull this back out again. I should actually just leave it like this, and then when I put the watch back together, I can push it in. I don't know, do this, and then I'll loosen this up again, and then take this out. There we go. So that's good. And if I look, I'm going to put a little Rodico on the top so this stuff doesn't spin out again, because I hate when that happens. So that just prevents the keyless stuff from falling out again. So I look on this side here and it looks pretty good. It's all in place. I still need to put the face back on before I do anything with the mainspring in the back. So I don't know. I think I'm going to have to fix the mainspring first, maybe. I'm not sure, because I think you can put the face on and you're good to go, because that'll keep the rest of this in place, which is what I want. And then I can flip it around and deal with the mainspring after. That sounds like a good plan. Yeah, maybe. I'm not quite sure, because I'd like to test it to see if it works before I put the face back on. So I'll think about it in a second. Okay, so here's a situation. Right here, there's a spring that goes all the way around, and there's a slot there. And then this mainspring here has a slot here. But this slot is not staying with this slot because the piece of metal that was here is gone. So I'm going to take a screw and try to make that fall between here. It'll stick out. I'll attach it to this slot, and when I wind it, the tool will stay in place. So I'll try to. Okay, so you can see the screw. The head of the screw is on this side, the outer side of the spring, and the screw is sticking through the spring nicely. And so that's not going to go anywhere. And then when I take this This has a notch in it as well, and I'm going to be able to put the screw inside of that notch and then start winding this inside the spring like this, and see how it's holding there. Not sure if you can see that, but see how it's holding there. So I'm hoping this works really well. So that is my hope, and I'm hand winding this in. So I'm going to turn off the video in a second, maybe. Not sure, because I'm not sure if you want to see me hand wind this in or not, because it's a little tedious, but probably the easiest way of getting the spring in. And I'm, of course, as I'm doing this, I'm hoping this spring doesn't break. So the last thing I need is it to break on me, and then I've got a whole other problem. And I also don't want it to tangle. And I don't have a spring winder for an 8-day watch, so you're going to see my struggle as I do this. And keep winding it, keep winding it. And I got the arbors still squeezed around the spring, so it's good. And when this is in place, so I can see right now that spring is nicely hooked to that screw, so that ain't going anywhere, which is nice. So I'll be able to wind this without it slipping. So that was a good little trick. I gotta think I'm gonna have to bring this to the top part and start doing smaller. The trick is to step it, right? If you take too big a step, you could miss it, and then the whole spring comes flying out. And you don't want to do that. So small steps, keep working it around like this, nice and easy. Take your time. You're going to get near the end here, and you should be able to just spool it in near the end, because I'm kind of getting there now. So I'm just sort of spooling it in now. And you always have to make sure you've got contact with it, because if you don't, you're screwed. So there we go. So the spring is back in place, and now I'm going to put some lubrication on the top of the spring before I put it back in. And I will use this stuff here. I can't remember the number for this, but this is sort of the medium tension lubrication. So I just put some on the top of the barrel like this, spring, because this is the world's biggest spring. I'm going to put it all the way across like that. And really hoping this puppy dog works when I get it. I take it out of the shed. Little dog analogy there. You see, it's now Friday, Good Friday right now, and my wife is out of town with family, and I couldn't go because of work. Boo-hoo for me. But I decided I would just do some watch stuff. So, which is good. Nice and relaxing. I think that's connected. I hope it is, otherwise I'm going to have to do this again. And I hate repeating things, so a little humor there. So this is my box of 1,000,000 screws. I got that screw from my box of 1,000,000 screws, so I've got to put that aside. I'll just put it somewhere over here so I don't screw it up accidentally. And then now I've got to very carefully put this spring unit back in here. I oiled this nicely, so it should be fine. And so when I put it back in like this, there's my tab right here that I'll have to move out of the way. I should put a little oil on the tab as well. Just a bit. Just allow it to move a bit. So this is the tab here. Put a little grease right there. And that allows it to nicely rotate. Gives it, there's a spring right there. And then this here rides on the very lightly on the threads of the barrel, the mainspring barrel. These tiny the gears. So I got like that, and then I'm going to put this back on nice and easy. I got this thing here is kind of screwed up in here, so. And I'm going to use a toothpick to move this out of the way because you shouldn't use anything but a toothpick to move it out of the way. Like that, and then I'm going to see if this will fit on. And there we go. So that's on now. And then with my tweezers that I can't find, my tweezers that I can't find. Where are the tweezers I can't find? Obviously, if I can't find them, I don't know where they are. So I'm just going to grab another pair of tweezers here. I don't know where the other ones went. Maybe they're inside the watch. I hope not. So here is the screw for the top. And as I said before, it's not righty-tighty, it's lefty-tighty for this thing. So I'll hold my hand on top and then just rotate the whole movement. And that way I don't have to worry too much about it not fitting. There we go. So that's on. I'll tighten that in a few seconds. But what I want to do is just rotate the barrel a bit, like it's winding, right? So I should actually be able to stick the stem in and wind it. So I'm going to do it the right way here. So I'm going to put the stem in, and I'm going to, hoping I didn't forget anything on the inside of this, but anyway, put the stem in like this. Come on, get in there. It looks like I might have to take this apart again. Not sure why it's not fitting in, but it's turning. Come on, get in there. Well, I'm going to start with the stem in a few seconds because something's up. Something up. For some reason it doesn't want to come tuck in there. I'm not sure why. Everything was fine 2 seconds ago. Jeez. Maybe the whole thing is off just a bit. I'll try fixing that in a second. Okay, I managed to get the stem in there, so I'm going to turn this. So right now I'm actually winding the movement. Made some funny noise there, I'm not sure what that was. Oh, I just heard the spring move on the inside, which is it just loosening up a bit. So I think you turn this thing like a million times, so let me just go the other side, and I'm going to flick the palate fork and see if that palate fork goes back and forth. And yes, it does. And I actually have to put a little bit of oil on the palate fork. So it is winding and the palate fork goes back and forth, so we have marginal success, if you want to call it that. And so all I need to do is I'm going to use this oiler, and I have to put a little tiny bit, a touch of this stuff on the escapement. That's too much. I have to just put a little tiny bit on there, like it's not even there. And that way it slips off ever so slightly. So I did that. That's on there. So is that focusing? No. So there we go. So now I move the palette fork. It should move the movement here. So it's moving. So all things are go. Now what I haven't done here is oiled all of these. So once I oil these, then we're really going to be rocking with smoking with oil, as they say. So I'm going to put a little bit of oil on these because they should have a bit of oil on them, that's for sure. And that just helps everything move freely, more freely. And then I'm going to use a finer oil for the other ones because it's I think that the pressure is kind of weird on this watch. It's not a, it's because the mainspring is so friggin' big that I don't think the pressure on each one of these is the same as if I'm looking at a normal pocket watch. I think that there's definitely a difference in how this works. So, and this is a big friggin' pocket watch, so we put a little bit of this oil in here. And this will help just keep it nice and smooth. There we go. So that's that. And then I got to, this is a long video, so I might do this as part 1 and part 2. So I'm going to put a bit of oil on here as well, because I know that once this thing, I got the wrong one here, so just bear with me for a second. Try to find the oiler that I need. It's the big ass yellow one. So I want to put a bit of this thick stuff right on here. That'll help with the friction here from the leaves on the gears. So that's that. I have my watch here is on, and this is my Ferrari watch. It's quite a nice piece, actually. I got this in Italy. This is what it looks like, and I got that in Italy, and it's a beautiful piece. Got it for a steal, as they say. And there we go. And it's a Ferrari watch, and it was like 80% off. So, and I got to ride the Ferrari F1 simulator. I was in Naples at the time on business. So there we go. So the watch is winding nicely. I'm hoping that little screw I put in there does the job ultimately. That I can wind this and it'll run for 8 days. That'd be cool. Alright, so that's that. Now I've got to get the balance back in. So let me just, I know that it's not in the regulator very well, so I'm going to fart with that. There, I just put on the, I just put this on the cannon pinion, and I drop this gear in, then I put this gear in, then I put this little tiny leaf for the face, and now I'm going to put the face back on. This is a beautiful face. I'm going to just clean this face a little bit with Rodico, because Rodico kind of takes off any smudges that are in there, which is nice. And I got to do it very carefully because I don't want to crack anything on this face, because it is in mint condition. So you have a look at it against the light. I got a light on my head right now, as you can see, and it's actually helping me see things as I do this. So this could be the new gig, is wearing this light on my forehead. So let's get this stuff off the edge. Still looks a bit messy. So I'm going to just take a cloth and wipe that down too. And maybe that'll take the rest of it off. Because I don't want any fingerprints and stuff on this thing. It's friggin' beautiful. There we go. I'm going to end up keeping this watch. I don't think I want to sell it. It's too nice. Other people can try to get it, but I'm not selling it. So there we go. So the face is down now, and I just have to tighten the screws on either side. And there's one right here. Hopefully that's focusing. I'm not sure if it is or not, but there's a screw right here. We can tighten that down, and then there's a screw right here. Tighten this down. This looks like it went a lot deeper than the other screw. This looks like it didn't go deep at all. That's fine. So there we go. So that's in now. And you can see that there's a little bit of a goo or something on the edge of this. Holder here. Not sure what that was. A little dampness or something. Goo. It's goo. So this is what we have so far. So it's looking pretty good. The barrel's back in. I did a little repair on the barrel as you saw before. There's the barrel there. That's a beautiful piece. And all I need to do now is drop in this balance. So as you can see, the balance, the actual spring is not attached with the regulator arm, so I'm going to have to do a little work on that. I'll be back in a few seconds. So I've got it running again, not well, but running. I'm going to probably take the balance off and work with the spring a bit to make sure to get this thing running perfectly. So, but it is running, so that's a real plus. So I'm just going to shake it around a bit again and see if I can get any more amplitude out of it. But ta-da! So there's the Hebdomas pocket watch. It's now running. It's not running really strong, but it's running, which is better than nothing. I will take the balance off tomorrow morning and align the spring, because I think the spring is kind of bunged up. So I think because it's an open pocket watch, somebody opened it up and fired it around with. So anyway, I'm going to take it apart and see if I can align the hairspring up so it's a bit better than it is now, and go from there. So that's it. Next video will be me putting it back together into its case, hopefully. I've been working on the case for the last 30 minutes or so. I take a piece of pegwood and I use this chemical called Peak, and this is great for shining up silver. You got to watch you don't use too much of it, because you'll remove too much of the silver from the movement. But this movement was was all black here and corroded. The silver had silver plating had come off, and I didn't like the look of it, so I got working on this, and now I've got a dirty rag here, but it looks a lot better. The back looks a lot better anyway, because it was very corroded in the back. So I put a little bit of elbow grease in here, and it kind of looks a whole lot better than it did before. So I used Peak, and then I did the edges as well, so of the case, and I did all the inside here, along the inside here, and then I did the back of the case here, and I did the edges in here too, where the case snaps on. I did a bit on the inside here, where there's a bit of corrosion here on the inside, but I didn't want to do too much in there because it's not going to corrode anymore and it's not visible. So all in all, it's looking pretty good. The back's looking a lot better than it looked when I got it. And also did the bezel here, and it was also in nasty condition. And I did the inside here, and I used a piece of pegwood again to get the gunk out of the inside. And sometimes I use a blade of a screwdriver as well to get all the stuff that doesn't want to come out easily. So the case is looking fairly good now. Get rid of that piece of paper, and the movement has been ticking away all night. The amplitude isn't that strong on it. However, I think I'm going to let it go for a week or so, and see if it gets any better, because it has gotten a little bit better overnight as the movement kind of moves around and stuff. And I've checked it in various positions, and it's got fundamentally the same amplitude in various positions. What I can see though is that the hairspring on this is a little bit toppled there. It's not completely horizontal with the balance, so some hairspring work is needed to be done on this. So if I was a good boy, I'd take this thing apart. But right now I think I'm just going to let it run for a while, work itself in. I'll put it back in the case, and then hopefully it'll run for 8 days. Spring works brilliantly right now, so there's no issue at all with the mainspring. So I have to recase this now, and if I recall, first thing to do in recasing it is actually to take the crown and stem out, and I've got I'm gonna hold it to do this. If I was really brave, I'd put it in the movement holder, but I don't want to touch the balance at all. So you just loosen that screw there, and then this comes out, and you kind of have to leave it loose in order to put it back in again. That's where the screw is on the edge. And then the case. One thing, when I took this thing apart before, it looked as though it looks as though the case screws back here weren't resting on anything. They were just kind of sitting there, so that didn't make any sense at all. So this here goes in like this, I believe. Actually, I got it backwards here. So hang on. I'm trying to videotape this again, and there's a notch right there, as you can see. That notch goes through like this, and then it goes in like that. And then there's case screws on this side that need to be put in place. And actually, I think it might be down as far as it needs to be. Yeah, because it wouldn't make any sense if these screws were not attached to anything. They seem to be down a bit, like they need to be put in, and they prevent the watch from coming up as opposed to prevent it from going down. It's kind of different, but this is my first attempt at one of these anyway, so. And I need to find the screws. And let me find those and come back. Alright, I got me the case screws here. Again, I should talk lightly because I think that the audio here is a little bit loud for the for this. So to put the screw in place here, this is going to be tricky, I think. Only because of the angle I'm using. If I was smart, I'd just grab the screw with my tweezers and then place it in the hole. Or not. There we go. And then tighten that up. Hopefully that's all visible. Again, I'm videotaping this while I'm trying to do it, which is always a challenge. And I'm not sure, again, whether these things have to be below the case or above it, so I think I have to put them in like this, and then it just doesn't make sense to have them on the other side. So, and this is where they were before. They were kind of, instead of preventing the watch from falling out, they're preventing the watch from going the other way, which makes no sense at all. But let me put this one in too. Yeah, that was no good. I also don't want these screws to hit the balance, so I'm going to angle it this way so in case the screw drops, it doesn't go into the balance. I'm going to have a whole other problem if I do that. Yeah, let me see if I can tighten this here. There we go. Now, I think if I push this from the other side a bit, it's going to give me some space to turn the screw. That's what you typically do. Yeah, this doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah, I think it's got to go through the other way. I think this is the way this works, because it pops out the other way, so I think it goes down. Like so. And then you tighten it on the other side. I don't want to touch this balance here while I'm doing this. There we go. I just have to move this just ever so slightly here because it's touching. I think I took this watch apart. Yeah. Alright, this isn't going to work. It came in from this side, so let me just take it out a bit. Tighten these. Yeah, I think it's the exact opposite of the way it's supposed to go. Tighten these down. like so. Then put the watch back in the case. Like this. Make sure it goes down below the rim. Which I don't think it's doing. Hope you're enjoying watching me fart with this. There we go. I got it on one side and I got it on the other side. There we go. So you can see that these screws are on the other side, and then I think you have to loosen them up, I think, to put them in place. Actually, these seem to rub against the edge of the watch case, and now the watch is tight in there. So it's in there really good. And then I got to put the stem back. So I put the stem in place like this, and make sure that it's lined up so when I lower the screw, there's the screw, I can, the right screwdriver, I can actually put the screw into the little gap that's in the stem. Again, the lighting is poor for, it's great for the video, but pretty poor for actually doing the work. And I'm talking like it's a PGA golf tournament again. So I think we got it there. Let me just get it one more shot here at tightening it. Yeah, that's tight. So that's good there. And that winds, which is good. And now I have to use my special tool that I made to tighten the back. So, and this is not righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. It's lefty-tighty, righty-loosey. So I've got to put it in. This is the tool I made. And I need to put these little jobby doohickeys into the hole, like so. And then tighten the back up just a bit, like that. Make sure I still have movement, and I do. So there we go. Good. And there it is in place. Like that. And then, and it's funny, these gears here, these are just to prevent the mainspring from spinning the other way. They have no, they're not connected to any gear on the watch itself. That's all done through the center where the gear is when I stripped it down. And so this actually, the back actually snaps down on this. Gotta make sure I've got, this is cleaned up here, that I don't leave any leftover gunk in there. I can just see some stuff in the corner here. I think that's just dirt from before. It's not gunk. And I probably want to put a little bit of oil on the hinges as well. And it's pretty tight in there. It's pretty hard to get in there. So again, if you use a piece of pegwood, you can pretty well get anywhere. And I'm going to lay this face down. I got a nice mat here, so I'm not too concerned. And take a little bit of oil here. And I'm going to use the yellow stuff here, which is used for keyless mechanisms and stuff like that. And I'm going to put a drop in the case right here, as you can see, and a drop on the other side as well, just to make sure this is lubricated. There we go. That'll find its way in over time. And you got to clean your oilers off when you're finished that. and then close this down, and the snaps closed. So I don't want to push on the face when I'm snapping it closed, because I'd rather push on the sides, because it's you can ruin the face by doing that. Actually, I'd like to have the top on to do this, because it's giving me trouble to close it. So this would go like that, and then this actually snaps on the top like this. Let me see where the edge is. So this is a little tiny bit worn here from over the years. If anyone's ever, I didn't see any service marks on this, like I said before, so I don't think it's ever been serviced. But there looks like there's a small gap, so that will sit like that. I'll put that on in a second. And then the crystal is over here, and I've cleaned that crystal up nicely. I got all of this stuff. I got this crystal from somebody that was selling all these French made crystals, and they're not plastic, they're actually glass and or crystal, probably crystal. And I'm going to glue that in, and that just fits impeccably like that. So this fits perfectly. So here, there it is there. And if I were to put a beautiful presentation mat underneath that, right, like this, this is what it looks like. There we go. So just try to get no reflection on there. Turn my light off or something. Hang on. That's a little bit better. There, high intensity lighting, I'm telling you. There, I'll just hold it. So this is what it's going to look like, all put back together. It is running. I still have to put the hands on, of course, but I've got one hand and I have to go make another one or find another one. And that's with the crystal on, so it would look like this, closed. And then the back looks like this, which is a lot better than it looked like before. So this is the repair of a Hebdomas pocket watch. It's now running again. Again, the amplitude is not that strong, but I'm going to let it run for a week because it seems to run in all 5 positions quite well, just not super strong. But it is working, and for a 100-year-old watch, that's no one had the time for. It's doing really well, so very impressed. So I'll end the video now. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I may have to do this in part 1 and part 2 because it's so big. Thank you very much.